Holy Gospel this morning is according to Matthew. Please stay seated. We don't need to stay standing for quite this much book. Jesus went about all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues and proclaiming the good news of the kingdom, and curing every disease and every sickness. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion for them, because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, "The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore ask the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest." Then Jesus summoned his 12 disciples and gave them authority over unclean spirits, to cast them out, and to cure every disease and every sickness. These are the names of the 12 apostles. First Simon, also known as Peter, and his brother Andrew. James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John. Philip and Bartholomew. Thomas and Matthew, the tax collector. James, son of Alphaeus and Thaddeus. Simon the Cananean, and Judas Iscariot, the one who betrayed him. These 12 Jesus sent out with the following instructions. Go nowhere among the Gentiles, and enter no town of the Samaritans, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. As you go, proclaim the good news. The kingdom of heaven has come near. Cure the sick, raise the dead, cleanse the lepers, cast out demons. You received without payment. Give without payment. Take no gold or silver or copper in your belts, no bag for your journey, or 2 tunics, or sandals, or a staff, for laborers deserve their food. Whatever town or village you enter, find out who in it is worthy, and stay there until you leave. As you enter the house, greet it. If the house is worthy, let your peace come upon it. But if it is not worthy, let your peace return to you. If anyone will not welcome you or listen to your words, shake off the dust from your feet as you leave the house or town. Truly, I tell you, I will be more tolerant for the land of Sodom and Gomorrah on the day of judgment than for that town. See, I am sending you out like sheep into the midst of wolves. So be wise as serpents and innocent as doves. Beware of them, for they will hand you over to councils and flog you in their synagogues. And you will be dragged before governors and kings because of me, as a testimony to them and the Gentiles. When they hand you over, do not worry about how you are to speak, or what you are to say, for what you are to say will be given to you at that time. For it is not you who speak, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you. Brother will betray brother to death, and a father his child, and children will raise against parents and have them put to death. And you will be hated by all because of my name. But the one who endures to the end will be saved. When they persecute you in one town, flee to the next. For truly I tell you, you will not have gone through all the towns of Israel before the Son of Man comes. This is the word of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
The Israelites had been led out of Egypt, as we read in the first reading from Exodus. They had been rescued from their 500 years of slavery, of toiling and working for the Egyptians, to build their structures, to feed them, plant and harvest their fields for them, and only getting the heel of the bread of whatever was left after their master had been done eating at the table. They were treated poorly, given poor accommodations, treated as slaves in this land of Egypt, and given hard labor to take care of their days. And God heard their cry and rescued them and brought them to the desert, where they were saved from the Egyptians, and gave them their journey to get to the promised land, the land that had been promised all the way back to Abraham at the time of Sodom and Gomorrah. Moses went and spoke to God up on the mountain, and God said, okay, so we finished our first phase. I got you out of Egypt, you've been rescued, you are a whole people, you are not damaged, but you are safe, and I'm getting you on the right direction. And as such, I did this favor for you. I rescued you out of Egypt. You're going to do this favor for me. You will be the people to help spread my word You will be the ones to help establish that I am the God, the one and only true God, for all the peoples of the land. Anyone you encounter, share the good word. Share the word of what happened, how you were saved, and how others can be saved too. As long as we work together in brotherhood, we show love to each other to work together, rather than being conquering mobs and hordes trying to one-up one another, as was also very common in that day and age throughout the world. So this was presented to Moses, and Moses brought it to the people. And it was easy for him to say, okay, yep, we'll do it. Everything you said, we'll do. But we know that as time went on, they grumbled, they complained. What was told of them, what was asked of them to be these prophets of God, to be these, what is the word? You shall be for me a priestly kingdom and a holy nation. Meaning they were supposed to be the leaders of this faith, of this renewed understanding and knowledge of God. That even after 500 years of not necessarily knowing him and praying to him and praising him, that they had walked away from him 500 years ago, and here they came back half a millennium later, and he still accepted them. He still brought them up out of Egypt. And not only that, to share, asking them to just share that story with other people, to share this good word that things can be better as long as you are willing to ask for that help. But we all know it's easy to commit to something. It's easy to say, yeah, I'll do that, that's no problem, until the day of reckoning for it comes. It's easy to tell your neighbor who says, hey, I'm going to be working cows in June. Can you come over and give me a hand, you think, when you get there? And you go, yeah, sure, no problem. Meanwhile, you start planning your vacation the next day for right about the day before that. Or it's easy to, or other easy commitments are watching someone's pets or helping build a building, whatever it might be. And it's like I said, it's easy to commit to these things until the day comes when all of a sudden now you have to actually put in the work. You actually have to spend the labor and the time doing whatever task it was you said you'd promise to do. And much as we like to think that we're all responsible and willing to help out and everything, we all end up with moments of, why did I sign up for this? Why did I sign up to take care of X, Y, and Z? This is harder work than I thought it was going to be. I'm not having fun. I don't want to do this. And again, much like the Israelites, they also had that same feeling. When the time came that they were to step up and do these things, they said, that's hard. That's work. I don't want to do that. I feel uncomfortable and speaking to these people and saying that they need to believe in this God. I don't want to. This is new and different and weird, and I don't know how to deal with this. And so they started shirking their duties. And time and again, we see that through the Bible, how the nation of Israel would end up thinking something was more difficult and just going with the flow of someone else being in charge, saying, well, this is what it's going to be, whether it jived with what God had told them, had shown them in the past or not. So that's why we had Jesus come to earth. God sent his son because, as we've all heard time again in movies throughout our entire lives, if you're going to do something, if you want something done right, do it yourself. So God sent his son as this perfect being to walk on earth, to understand what it was to be human. Why is it that as many times as I've tried to put you up to this task, as many times I've tried to make it easier and easier for you, why do you continue to have such a problem with following through? What's so hard about being human? So Jesus lived amongst us, walked amongst us, lived amongst us, and lived a perfect life, never sinning. But at the same time, he realized also that you can only do that if you are perfect. The only way you can live in the way that God specifically implores us to live is if we were all perfect. We all had the ability to selflessly give to each other and labor for each other without any expectation of compensation, no pay, no gifts of completion, not even necessarily a pat on the back and a thank you. We feel we need these compensations, these thank yous for our labor. And we also feel that that's necessary because there's always those people who feel like they can take without putting in any of the labor. They're not even waiting for a thank you. They don't even wait to put in the labor to do it. They just take the reward at the end. And that's not right either. But of course, that always makes a person jealous, and immediately we just sinned. We got jealous of someone. We envied someone else and what they're doing and how are they getting through. Why are they just taking without having to do the work? Then we start thinking about it, going, well, I want some things too, and we take them without asking. And again, we sinned again because we stole. Or we judge each other by the things that we each have or how we do our work. Well, they're lazy. I mean, look at that. They won't even finish planting their fields. They don't worry about the corners. It's so lazy. They're not even getting full coverage of their fields. Look at their herd. Obviously, these cows need some work. Their herd could use some different genetics. Easy to stand and judge someone else's work, whether yours is done or not. And again, one more time, it's a sin. So Jesus walked amongst us and realized that we all as a people are basically good people. We all are trying to move ahead and be good and prosper and help those around us prosper. The problem comes in when we encounter someone who isn't necessarily good or trying to do good, who is self-indulging and self-important and worried about what they're going to get next rather than what can they accomplish and help fix next or build next. But Jesus saw this. He was out amongst the people. He was healing. He was saving. He was casting out demons. He was helping bring people back into good health, mental and physical. And he was looking and seeing that there was so much work that needed to be done, so many people who did deserve to get the help that they needed, that he was only one being on this planet, that he could not physically, in any amount of time, get this work done. He saw that the harvest of good nature, goodwill, and healing was plentiful. Lots of people were willing to accept and share the help, but there weren't enough people going out and giving the help. So Jesus sent out his disciples, giving them the powers that he had. The power to cast out demons, to cure sickness, cure leprosy, these different things, to make people whole again, and to spread the good word of what is to come. And then he sent them out into the world. He said, go out and spread this word. Don't take anything with you. You are not on a journey of survival. You are on a mission of spreading the word, of sharing and working for those people out in the world. So don't be prepared to have to take care of yourself. Go and take care of others, and they will take care of you. And on top of that, you're not going to go talk to the Gentiles. You're not going to go talk to the Samaritans. You're going to go out and find those cities of Israel that are lost, that have lost their way, that have lost the word. And he did that for a very specific reason. The Gentiles were not familiar with God necessarily, but they were all willing to learn and accept it. They all heard about this greatness, this wonderful, amazing, powerful being, this God that would care for them as long as they cared for each other. And they were easy and good for that. Someone who's going to take care of me as long as I take care of others, I'm in. This is easy. How hard can this honestly be? Same with the Samaritans. The Samaritans were happy to work together, to help each other, and to hear that there was a loving and caring God that would also care for them and love them for the good works that they did in the world. It was those lost cities of Israel, those lost peoples who had walked away from God, who had walked away from their kin and from the good word, those that truly were in a dark place and needed to be reminded of the light and brought back to the light. Those who were honestly actually resistant to what is the Word of God, what is the Word of light, and be rather stuck in the tradition of what they think the church is supposed to be, based on how many millennia of different priests, different rabbis, going out and teaching their message. Some of them correct, some of them for their own indulgence, their own self-righteousness. Jesus said, go out and help rectify the message. Help spread the correct message. They're not getting the right message. It's not going to happen everywhere. They're not all going to accept it. Some of them will kick you out of town. Some of them will bring you before their councils and say, he's blaspheming. He is saying things that are not true because our book says something different, because we had a rabbi 50 years ago that said it was different. And he said, if that's the case, if you run into that much resistance, let them be. If they're not going to be willing to walk toward the light, you gave them the invitation, you even offered to walk with them. If they're not willing to walk with you, shake the dust off your feet. Leave any mention of even any little bit of labor that you did for them at their door. Do not take it with you. Do not hold it a grudge in your heart either about these peoples that you brought the message to, who rejected you, who rebuked you. It's not your fault. It's just how they are. It's where they are, where they're not willing to accept change, and it has nothing to do with you. I will take care of them. You did your job. We all need to remember how these things in our lives are, how the disciples went out and spread this good word to all people by doing good work for each other, not shunning each other for how they look, how they dress, what kind of work they do, what they find entertaining, but rather that we are all people, we are all humans on this earth, set here by God, in the image of God, imbued with the Spirit of God. We were all given the same basic gifts of the Spirit. We were all given our own unique selves. We were all given our own unique gifts in this world to use to labor and toil with each other. And he wants us to be reminded and remember that those gifts were given to us to help each other so we can all rise up, that we'll all go to bed with a full belly, that we'll all wake up the next morning, wipe the sleep from our eyes, and be able to go to work with a smile on our face, or at least the resolve that we know this has to be done. And when it's done, it's a job well done. That we did the work that we needed to do to accomplish whatever our goals are. To not worry about what our neighbor is doing, but that we got our work done. That we are able to help our neighbor if they should need help. And to walk away when people are not willing to accept that help. You can only talk to a stone wall before you eventually realize all you're getting is an echo. All you're getting is your words back to you without any change to the rock. Be willing to share the message. Be willing to put in the work to help each other in this world. It's tough going through life, having to worry about sickness or injury, dangers of whatever your job might be it farming or ranching or building skyscrapers or fighting fires or having to help keep the peace and the order in this world. So as we go through our lives, help us to remember to try to live as the 12 apostles, to go out and spread the good word, knowing that we're all imperfect each in our own way. But the fact that we know that we are all imperfect, that can bring us together and say, well, that's your imperfection, but I can help you compensate for that imperfection. You can't run as fast, but you're stronger than I am. So I will run back and forth and get the pieces that you need, and you can build it. All of a sudden, the two imperfections have been covered, and all of a sudden, a perfect job has been completed. Remember that we are all God's creation. We are all given our lives, our souls, our light and our night together through God. He's saved us from destruction time and again, be it from floods or slavery, all-out wars. Resolve always comes. As long as we remember to forgive ourselves, once we forgive ourselves, to forgive our neighbors of anything that they may have done. Because God judges us not any more than we judge ourselves. In fact, he judges us less but more righteously. He knows when we have sinned, and he is willing to forgive us our sins the moment we ask for that forgiveness. Knowing of our imperfections, he sends us out into the world to help each other recognize our own imperfections and be able to help each other compensate for those imperfections in our lives. Knowing we're imperfect, knowing that God sent his Son, Jesus Christ, into this world who was perfect, to show us a better way, to give us the tools we needed to know that we are all forgiven and we can forgive each other. As it is written, we know not only that, we can boast in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance. Endurance produces character. Character produces hope. And hope does not disappoint us. Knowing that each of our own struggles is what forms us as us. If everything was easy and a breeze through life, what kind of personalities would any of us have? How interesting would it be to learn or hear about anyone else's journey in this world if we were all the same? So each of us as individuals and all part of God, let us remember the light, that we are all part of the same light, so there's no reason to judge one another as you only judge yourself at the same time. Let us go forth in this world, loving each other and helping each other in this world. Amen.